Hello, I'm Stuart Barker, the ISO 27001 Ninja, and this is the deep dive into the various Annex A controls. Today we're going to take a look at how to implement and pass the audit of ISO 27001 Annex A 5.7 threat intelligence. Oh my god, you guys have got some twitchy a-holes around this new control and I don't know why. So the blog that I've written for this exists on my website, hightable.io. By all means go on there, lots of guidance for all of the Annex A controls. One of the most popular blogs that I think that I've written, and it gets most of the traffic. So I think people are a little bit worried about what it is. So let's take a little bit of a deep dive for you today. Let's show you how you can implement it. Let's show you what's changed, what this new control is all about, what auditors are going to look for, common mistakes that people make, hopefully shine some light in the darkness for you. I'm going to be doing some reading, so I'm going to be looking a little bit off camera. This isn't the best production, right? We're not creating light for the mass mainstream media or anything, right? It is what it is. Let's dive straight in. So ISO 27001 threat intelligence, right? So what is it? So threat intelligence is about gathering information, right? It's about gathering information from various sources so that you can analyze it and understand if there are threats to you, to your business, your organization, if there are threats in your within your infrastructure or potential future threats, and so that you can address them, right? So I mean, it's a common sense approach. It is a new control that comes in with the 2022 version of the standard, and it requires you as an organization to collect and analyze information relating to information security threats and to use that information to take mitigation, right? So we're going to take mitigation action. It's used to prevent, detect and respond to threats. When it comes to the threat intelligence information, you can produce your own, right? So you can produce your own threat intelligence, but as a rule, you're going to make use of threat intelligence that's produced by other people. It's often provided by independent providers and advisors, which can include government sources, right? Great source of information. And more than likely, products and services are going to spring up, right? I mean, you don't have to sign up to them, you know, but you might want to, and I can imagine that there's going to be a lot of products and services out there that are going to want to take your money to provide you with threat intelligence information. But you can do it cheaper than that, right? So we're going to take a look at that. So what is the ISO 27001 Annex A 5.7 purpose? So it is a preventive, detective and corrective control. And it's going to ensure that you provide awareness to the organization of threat environments so that appropriate mitigation action can be taken. If we want to do the definition, which we seem to do on all of these videos, we're going to read that definition out for you. So the 27001 standard defines Annex A 5.7 as information relating to information security threats should be collected, analyzed to produce threat intelligence, right? And that is it. So let's remember when we go through this, right? 27001 isn't a checklist. It isn't going to tell you exactly what you need to do. It is also, and we covered this on other videos, right? Not every control is going to apply to you, and there is a situation where threat intelligence might not apply, right? I mean, it is well within the realms of possibility that you can accept the risk of not having the control. The cost of implementing control may far outweigh the benefit that you receive, so you can outscope it, right? Don't think you have to do it. You don't have to do it. But if you do it, you know, there are different approaches to how as well. So guidance is the key, right? We're using the word over and over again, guidance. So what is the threat intelligence implementation guide? So if I was going to implement this, if I'm working with a client, what are we going to ensure? So we're going to ensure that the objectives for threat intelligence production are established, right? We're going to establish our objectives. We're going to look at internal and external sources of information and identify them. We're going to select them and we're going to vet them where necessary and where appropriate. So where are we getting our information from, right? We're going to create a list of that. We're going to know where we're getting this information from and we're going to trust it. Information is going to be collected from several sources, right? So we're not going to rely on just one source of information when we're doing our threat intelligence. Information is then prepared for analysis. So we're going to take that raw data and create some analytics off of the back of that, for example, by formatting it or translating it. And information is going to be analyzed to understand how it relates to you, right? I mean, if you're getting threat intelligence on Linux and you don't have any Linux in your environment, then clearly it doesn't apply to you. So you've got some analysis work to do there. We're also going to then communicate and share information and make sure that that is done to the relevant people in a way that they will understand it. So we create our threat intelligence information and we share it with the various stakeholders, but in a way that they will understand, right? A lot of this data is going to be in raw format. When implementing threat intelligence, you're analyzing and using information and including it in your risk management process. ISO 27001 is a risk management process, right? It's built around risk management. So the only reason we're going to collect the data is so that we can implement risk management off of the back of it. And you're using it as an input to inform how you implement and configure technical controls. So the way that we implement our technical controls, other controls that are part of 27001 Annex A, are going to be configured, right, to mitigate the risks that we identify through risk management, but also through threat intelligence. And you're adopting information security tests and techniques that are based upon it. So threat intelligence is used to inform decisions, inform actions that we can use to mitigate the threats that we see and that we are being informed about. Now, it does talk in the standard about 3 levels of threat intelligence. So we have strategic threat intelligence. That's high-level information about the threat landscape. We have tactical threat intelligence, intelligence on tools, techniques, attacks, attack methodologies. And we have operational threat intelligence, intelligence on specific attacks and indicators. Now, we know that as part of our implementation, we're always going to be pushing 27001 templates, right? We've got a 27001 template store, and we also have the ultimate ISO 27001 toolkit, right? The most aggressively effective, cheapest, you know the rest, right? Is going into sales mode, right? No. So we're going to use the templates anyway, and there are plenty of templates available. But let's look at how we're going to comply. Now I want to talk about how to comply. So to comply with Annex A 5.7 threat intelligence, you're going to implement the how to the what that the control is expecting. So in short measure, we're going to take a number of steps. We're going to establish and document objectives for threat intelligence production. We're going to identify, vet, list and document internal and external sources of information. So internal sources of threat intelligence information, you know, it could be the analytics that we report, it could be the monitoring of our environment that we do, the logs that we are logging, the number of incidents that we have. It's all valuable, right? And it's all valid when it comes to threat intelligence. And if that's all you want to collect, then that's your management system. As I say, you know, you don't have to be going out there and buying tools and solutions, although you can. So we've established it, we've identified the sources of information, we're going to collect it. So we're going to set up our process of collection. We're going to then prepare that information for analysis, for example, by formatting it or translating it. We're going to analyze it so we understand it, and we're going to communicate it, right? So what is an auditor going to check? We like to cover this section when we're going through our deep dive into Annex A. An auditor, right, at the end of the day is a human being, right? So the way they interpret the standard is down to them. So you just got to remember what the requirement of the standard is, and that the standard is about providing guidance, right? It's not a checklist. So their interpretation of whether or not you're doing it right or wrong or not is down to them, but it doesn't cut any beans, right? We don't care, right? Because this is your management system. But what are they going to check? They're going to check that you are gathering threat intelligence and that you're analyzing it. So what this means is that you need to show that you have a list of sources of threat intelligence information. Can you show them a list of sources? Have you got records of collecting it? And can you show reports where you have shared it and you have communicated it? So everything is about documentation, right? They're going to be also looking at that you have taken action as a result of threat intelligence. So what actions did you take? Have you documented that? Is it part of your change management processes? Is it part of your continual improvement processes? So the process may be straightforward. You may have updated a system, you may have changed a configuration, introduced or removed a tool, had an incident that was well managed via the incident management process. But whatever the course of action that you have, you're going to have records around what you did, and they're going to check it, right? They're also going to check that threat intelligence forms part of risk management and your operations. It isn't in isolation. So your risk management process is going to factor in and evidence threat intelligence. It has to. Your risk register may take account of threat intelligence and emerging or realized risks. So you're going to make that connection between the two. When we look at the top 3 mistakes, I mean, there are many mistakes people make, right? I mean, they're only human. But when we look at the top 3 mistakes that people make for ISO 27001 Annex A 5.7 threat intelligence is, the first one, the main one, is you're not collecting or using threat intelligence, right? This is a new control, so it's one to overlook, right? Make sure that you follow the control requirements and that you can evidence its operation. Another mistake that people make is you rely only on internal threat intelligence. I argued earlier that that's not necessarily a mistake, and it isn't necessarily a mistake, but auditors are auditors and they like to see that you're looking a little bit wider than yourself and navel gazing. So internal threat intelligence is easy to collect, but it doesn't necessarily provide you with a wider picture. So be sure to include external sources of threat intelligence data where you can. And the third mistake that people make is not having their documentation up to date. We cover this every time. Version control, document classification, reviewed within the last 12 months, document owner, etc. So just make sure that your documentation is tight. So why is threat intelligence important? The purpose of the control is to provide awareness of the threat environment, right? So taking collective knowledge of threats can lead to a collective response, and that response can be based on a collective best practice. If we share information, we reduce the risk and the impact of emerging threats, that they're only ever going to increase. We cannot protect against what we don't know. And as we start to know more and we can increase our protection, we can make ourselves and the world a safer place, and we can make it a much more secure working environment, right? So it's just collective knowledge, sharing best practice, sharing information, knowing what's out there in the wild. And then if we are in a position to be able to tackle that threat, sharing that information with others so that they can too. So now have a look at a couple of FAQs. Again, these are all on the website and on the blog. Is threat intelligence a new control? Yes. Threat intelligence is a new ISO 27001 2022 control introduced with the 2022 update of the standard. It's Annex A control. What are the three layers of threat intelligence? Because you were paying attention, you will know these. Strategic threat intelligence, high-level information about the threat landscape, tactical threat intelligence, intelligence on tools, techniques, and attack methodologies, operational threat intelligence, which is intelligence on specific attacks and indicators. When was threat intelligence added to 27001? The threat intelligence was added as part of the 2022 update, right? October 2022. What clause of 27001 covers threat intelligence? Annex A 5.7. What clause of 27002 covers threat intelligence? Clause 5.7. What is the difference between 27001 Annex A 5.7 and 27002 Clause 5.7? Absolutely nothing, right? They're exactly the same thing. So 27002 is a standard in its own right, and it's included in 27001 as an Annex A, so people will use the naming interchangeably. How long will Annex A 5.7 threat intelligence take me? It's going to take you about a day maybe, if you set it up from nothing and you're doing it yourself. If I was going to do it, what I would do is I'd be collecting that internal intelligence. I'd be having, reports from my logging and my monitoring systems, things that are easy, low-hanging fruit. I'd be tracking my own internal incidents and using that and calling that as evidence. I'd be signing up to vendor newsletters, getting early access to beta programs of applications, signing myself up for vendor bulletins, looking out there and seeing are there any forums that are relevant to what I do. Is it security forums, specific technology forums, like your Jira forums, things like that, Confluence forums, SharePoint forums, Microsoft forums, and just signing up to all of these bulletins. And a number of these larger vendors are now distributing logs and information on a monthly basis for free anyway. So I don't think it's going to take you long. It'll take you about a day in my approximation, just to get this thing documented. And that's going to be the hardest part, right? Just documenting it and evidence it. How much is it going to cost me? It should be free, right? I mean, as I said at the beginning, right? People are going to be starting products and services around this, in no doubt, right? People like to gold rush, but you don't need it, right? It should be free, as in, time. You're trading cash money for time, but this is a time play, not a cash play. And is there an online 27001 ISO 27001 online? Yes, there is. It's coming soon, and as we said before, we don't really talk about it, but at some point, anyway, we're not going to talk about that. So this is ISO 27001 Annex A 5.7 threat intelligence. Don't worry about it. Don't panic about it. Go onto the High Table website. Look under Learn. There is a blog for every single 27001 control, a blog for every single ISO 27001 Annex A control. There is more guidance than you can take a stick at. Subscribe to this channel, right? subscribe. I'm a very needy person, right? But on top of that, not only that, I'm giving you valuable information, valuable videos and insights. So make sure you subscribe. If there's anything that you saw that you liked, comment below. If there's anything that you saw you didn't like, you know, keep that information to yourself and don't share it. No, I love to hear all information, good and bad. So my name is Stuart Barker. I am the ISO 27001 Ninja. This was the deep dive into ISO 27001, Annex A 5.7 threat intelligence. My advice is don't panic, don't worry, be safe, take care of yourselves. Peace out.